Hello there, welcome to Lunchtime News here on News First, where the people come first. You're joining me, Nareksha Gunasekara. Let's start off by taking a look at your headlines. Third session of the 9th Parliament begins. A special bureau for the Aragale activists. SJB ready to meet President Wickramasinghe for discussions. Jumping queues at filling stations prohibited. Dedicated areas for peaceful protesters to be allocated. Private bus strikes launched on several routes. Nancy's visit creates tensions in China. In your top story this afternoon, the new session of the Parliament got underway this morning under the auspices of President Ranil Wickramasinghe. This was the opening of the third session of the 9th Parliament. The ceremonial opening of the new session was conducted according to the instructions. Traditional parades and gun salutes were not a part of today's ceremony.
සතිවාරය සඳහා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රජාතාන්ත්‍රික සමාජවාදී ජනරජයේ ගරු ජනාධිපති රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාගේ සම්ප්‍රාප්තියයි සිදුවනු ලබන්නේ. ජනාධිපතිතුමා පැමිණීමත් සමග වෙනදා නම් අපිට දකින්න ලැබෙනවා ජනාධිපති දජය මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු ගොඩනැගිල්ලේ ඔසවන ආකාරය. නමුත් පත්මන් ජනාධිපතිතුමා වෙනුවෙන් නිල දජයක් තවමත්ම නොමැති නිසා එතුමන් ජාතික දජය සහිතවයි අද එතුමන්ගේ රථයේ ගමන් ගන්නේ සහ මෙහි ලෙලදවීම සඳහා කටයුතු යොදා තිබෙනවා.
සම්මානමුරේ ඉතිරි කොට කරගෙන යාමට ඔබතුමාගේ අවසරය පතමි. ජනාධිපතිතුමනි.
ජනාධිපති උත්තමාචාර්යන් අනතුරුව දැන් එතුමන් ප්‍රධාන සභා ශාලාව වෙත පැමිණෙන ආකාරය අපිට දකින්න ලැබෙනවා.
Our plan is to bring this down to less than 100% by the year 2032. If we build the country, the nation and the economy through the national economic policy, we would be able to become a fully developed country by the year 2048, when we celebrate the 100th anniversary of independence. Due to this instability of the foreign policy, we faced many disadvantages and setbacks in the international arena. All countries of the world are our friends. We have no enemies. We do not belong to any group. I will ensure the adoption of a cordial and friendly foreign policy with all countries. What has happened today? Reliance of people on the political system and politicians has broken. Expectations of the people regarding the state mechanism have exhausted. This is the reason for the activists to demand a change in the system. I will implement social and political reforms requested by the nation with the cooperation of all citizens. The struggle that started all over Colombo expecting system change was later centralized in the Gulf-face. This struggle was conducted on a non-violent basis and creative manner. Although later this non-violence was suppressed and violence emerged with certain politicized groups that became stakeholders. I do not allow violence and terrorism. However, will protect non-violence and democracy. Peaceful struggle is a fundamental right. I will accept those rights. I will establish an office to protect the peaceful protesters and support them. If there are individuals who have participated in such illegal activities, either unknowingly or due to the influence of others, the plan will be prepared to act sympathetically towards them.
For the full speech, you can visit our award-winning website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. Moving on to more headline-making news. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, in a letter to President Ranil Wickremesinghe, says he accepts the invitation for a dialogue on the way forward, including the 19th Amendment to the Constitution and reintroducing the Parliament Monitoring Committee system. In his letter, Sajith Premadasa also pointed out the need to take urgent action to resuscitate people's lives in light of the current economic, political and social crises in the country.
With over 2 billion YouTube subscribers, the most visited Facebook page, an island-wide network of correspondents with island-wide broadcast capabilities. News First, with the people.
The police are seeking public assistance to arrest several key activists who were identified for forcibly entering the Prime Minister's office in Colombo 7 on the 13th of July and damaging property.
The police have also released photographs of close-up surveillance footage related to the incident to the media. The police request any information pertaining to this group to be forwarded by WhatsApp or calling 0718 594 950, 0718 594 901 and 0718 594 924. In addition, the police media unit said that related information can also be reported through the telephone number 011-242-2176. Meanwhile, police said that an individual was arrested in Daraniyagala for entering the president's house and taking photographs while sitting on the president's chair. The 28-year-old suspect is a resident of Samanpuragama. He was remanded until the 10th of August after he was produced before the Fort Magistrates Court. Another 2 people who entered temple trees and suspected members of an illegal group were arrested yesterday in Jaila. The 35 and 37-year-old suspects are due to be produced in court today.
Human Rights Watch in a statement today said that the Sri Lankan government is using emergency regulations to harass and arbitrarily detain activists seeking political reform and accountability for the country's economic crisis.
The statement added that since Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as president, the police and military have sought to curtail protests through the intimidation, surveillance and arbitrary arrests of demonstrators, civil society activists, lawyers and journalists. Meenakshi Ganguly, South Asia Director at Human Rights Watch, said, I quote,
"The Sri Lankan government's crackdown on peaceful dissent appears to be a misguided and unlawful attempt to divert attention from the need to address the country's urgent economic crisis."
End quote. She also said, quote,
Sri Lanka's international partners should be clear that they need to be working with the rights respective administration to address Sri Lanka's deeply rooted economic problems.
Unquote. She further added, quote,
The government needs to end its repressive policies and practices and act urgently to address the people's basic needs, win public trust and uphold the rule of law by holding those responsible to account.
Unquote.
The Immigration Department yesterday seized the passport of a young British national, accusing her of sharing information about the people's protests via social media.
The Department of Immigration and Immigration said her passport was taken into custody for violating visa conditions. Taking to social media, Fraser claims that she had received a phone call from a very anxious person telling her that she needed to leave the country immediately. Her social media post added, quote, "The government officials and intelligence agencies are inquiring into you," unquote. She says, quote, "I asked what would happen if I don't leave. The reply was big problems," unquote. A British High Commission spokesperson responding to News First said they are aware of press reports of an incident involving a British national. The High Commission spokesperson said they have not received any request for consular assistance and added that they are in contact with relevant authorities to ascertain more details. Fraser has been informed to visit the Immigration and Immigration Department within 7 days for an investigation. The Immigration Department had said that the next course of action will be decided following the investigation.
12,289 people have been affected by the adverse weather conditions experienced in the country. The Center for Disaster Management says 3 people have died while 4 others are missing due to flooding and landslides.
The Department of Irrigation notes minor flood levels are observed in the areas surrounding the Nilwala River and Malimbada and Tihagoda Divisional Secretariats. Director Engineer at the Department of Irrigation, SPC Sugeshwara, requested the general public living in the lower-lying areas to be vigilant. These visuals were captured in Akurasa, which was inundated due to the overflowing of the Nilwala River. People are facing a dangerous situation with houses and roads being inundated.
අවුරුද්දකට 3 වතාවක් විතර මේ විදියට අසරණ වෙනවා. මේ ඔක්කොම මේ අතර එක්ක.
A landslide was reported at the Bagatulu area along the Ginigathena Navalapitia main road earlier this morning. Police noted due to the threat of further landslides in the area, clearance of the road will be delayed. Police requested the motorists to refrain from using the road until the mound of earth is cleared. A mound of earth had fallen to a house at around 2:30 a.m. in Rosella in Hatton, causing damages to the house.
අපි මෙතන මේ කාමරේ තමයි නිදාගෙන හිටියේ. ඒ නිදාගෙන ඉන්නකොට තමයි මේ කාවේ
Earth slips have fallen on woodland area along the Hatton-Colombo main road. Our correspondent noted this has resulted in closing of a lane in the woodland area, resulting in disruption in vehicular movement. Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organisation say the landslide warnings issued to 7 districts are in effect till this evening. Meanwhile, landslides and rock slides were reported in 15 areas along the upcountry railway line. The railway control room said several days will be taken to bring back the railway operations to normalcy. Meanwhile, 2 sluice gates at the Upper Kotmale Reservoir has been opened. The engineer in charge requested the people living in low-lying areas to be vigilant. 6 sluice gates of the Pulgola barrage has been opened due to heavy rains received.
Up next is Crime Watch.
Crime Watch.
4 police teams have been deployed to investigate into the brutal murder of a member of the Mulleriava Pradeshia Sabha at the Bank Junction in Mulleriava on Tuesday. Rukshan Sumudu, a member of the Sri Lanka Potujana Peramuna, was shot dead by unidentified motorcycle gunmen, a trend that has been terrorizing Sri Lankans in recent weeks. Sri Lanka police said that they are yet to identify the suspects responsible for the murder.
පොලිසිය පැවසුවේ ඝාතනයට අදාළ සැකකරුවන් මෙතෙක් හඳුනාගෙන නොමැති බවයි.
Crime Watch.
Trains operating from Avisawala to Colombo along the Kalani Valley line have been delayed. This is because a train has derailed in Maharagama. The railway control room says trains from Avisawala to Colombo will only operate until the Maharagama railway station. The second phase of the Devi Savia program to uplift the lives of poverty-stricken families continues for the 28th day today in the Mullaitivu district. The program is sponsored by LOLC Holdings. The day 28 of the second phase of the Devi Savia program commenced from the Mullaitivu district today. The Devi Savia program aims at supporting low-income families amidst the economic crisis. In news overseas, U.S. Speaker Nancy Pelosi has met with Taiwan President in a visit that has been strongly condemned by China. Pelosi is the most senior U.S. politician in 25 years to visit Taiwan.
Nancy Pelosi said a delegation had come to make it unequivocally clear that the U.S. would not abandon the island. The U.S. Speaker has made a stop in Taiwan as part of a tour to Asia. But China, which claims the self-governed island as its own territory, has warned U.S. against meddling in Beijing's affairs. The U.S. House Speaker says she is honored to be referred to as a good friend of Taiwan and said a visit to the self-governed island has three main purposes.
On our visits on congressional delegations, we have three purposes. One is security for our people, global security. Two is economics, spread as much prosperity as possible. And three is governance.
Pelosi also said she wanted to increase interparliamentary cooperation and dialogue and work out specific ways to do it with Taiwan.
We want to increase interparliamentary cooperation and dialogue. And we do so at a time when our president has put forth an Asian Pacific initiative which we support, and we want to be specific in terms of how we work with Taiwan in that regard. Talked about the economy. Thank you for bringing up the CHIPS bill. All of these members were instrumental in passing that important legislation, which we think offers greater opportunity for U.S.-Taiwan economic cooperation. In terms of governance, we commend Taiwan for being one of the freest societies in the world.
In her meeting with Taiwan's president at the presidential office, Pelosi called Taiwan an inspiration to all freedom-loving people, saying the world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's decision to preserve democracy here in Taiwan remains ironclad. Tsai similarly praised the partnership between both places, saying Taiwan remained a trustworthy and reliable partner of the United States. As Pelosi's plane touched down on Tuesday night, Chinese state media reported that its military jets were crossing the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan denied those reports at the time, but later said that more than 20 Chinese military planes had entered its air defense zone yesterday. Within an hour of Pelosi's arrival, China announced that the People's Liberation Army will conduct a series of live-fire military drills in the air and at sea around Taiwan later this week, warning ships and aircraft not to enter the affected areas. This follows days of escalating tensions in which Chinese warplanes had already ventured out as far as the median line, the unofficial divide separating China and Taiwan in the waters between them. Meanwhile, the White House has been open in its opposition to the visit, and President Joe Biden said the military assessed it as not a good idea. But after Pelosi landed, the White House Kirby told CNN this visit was similar to previous trips by the other officials, adding that the United States is not going to be intimidated by threats. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi today released a statement reiterating China's opposition to Pelosi's visit. Wang called it an open political provocation, adding that it seriously violates the One China principle and harms China's sovereignty. The US must stop obstructing China's great reunification. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. China also rolled out several curbs today, stopping shipments of sand to Taiwan and suspending the import of some fruit and fish from Taiwan.
In sports news, the men's 100-meter semi-finals at the 2022 Commonwealth Games is set to be held today. Sri Lanka's Yupuna Bekon will participate at 7:56 local time. Yupuna Bekon clocked a timing of 10.16 seconds in the heats, which is also the best amongst the 100-meter athletes at this edition of the Commonwealth Games. Lunchtime news here on News First, where the people come first. For all these stories and much more, you can simply visit our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. Thank you for joining. Have yourself a great day ahead.
ඇත්ත කෙටියෙන් දත්ත වැඩියෙන් සයිබර් අවකාශයේ කළඹන වුවත් සලකුණ News First YouTube channel අදම subscribe කරන්න. News